am going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amanda Tolero. I am a recent graduate, just graduated this June with a theater degree.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tremaine Hickman Nicholson from Brooklyn, New York. I play Danny. I play the receptionist, and I'm also a part of the collective. And I also play Mr. Bill.
Yes, you are playing.
Yeah. I don't know why Danny only stuck out, but I think she's my most challenging character. So
she's the one. She is the one. But you do it marvelously well.
Thank you.
My name is Ellie. I am from the Twin Cities originally, from Minneapolis, and then went to school in Southern California and have been in New York now for about 10 years. I live in Brooklyn. I have a background in acting and theater. I also am the co-founder and co-artistic director of a theater company called the Neighborhood Theater Project.
Okay, hi, my name is Emily Oliveira. I use she, her pronouns. I am playing Leanne / mother / a member of the collective in this production.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I just recently graduated from college. I was in PACE for 4 years, 4 very long years. A dream I had when I graduated was I wanted to do new work, and I wanted to do work with all women. And I remember telling people this dream of mine, and people were like, yeah, okay, Hannah, yeah, all right. And right after graduation, I booked this. Okay, so I play the collective, and then I also play Reverend Gail, and then I play Vinny, and I play Roy.
I'm Kate Benioff. I am a Brooklyn-based actor, dancer, singer, choreographer. I moved to the city literally almost right before the shutdown, so it's been a wild year and a half. Yes, so I am Uncle Tim, Dr. Columbo, and the collective.
Great. My name is Molly Wolf. I'm an actress based in New York City. I'm actually a senior at the City College of New York in Harlem, where I study theater. I have 1 year left. Other than that, I'm a singer and a musician, and I'm playing Jeremy Dennis, and I'm a part of the collective in Renaming Shaim.
Okay. First thing that came to mind after reading Renaming Shaim. What was your first thought?
Wow. My first thought was, it's a lot. It's in a really beautiful way, because it's such a roller coaster. And it's so heavy, but also how do I say this? Not releasing, but relieving at the same time, which is such a weird combination, but it's really beautiful. But I would say a lot.
A lot. Okay.
It was heavy. Emotionally, mentally, just from getting the script from you and Farah, and just reading it on my own, it was heavy. And then our first reading as an ensemble, it was heavier. Because you have fabulous actors, just from a reading, if you can get the feel of it, it was heavy. But it was heavy in the sense that good and bad. Heavy as the story is. It's heavy as an actress because there's a lot of spiritual things for me that I feel minister to people. And so you want to get it right. The message of don't hold on to shame, don't hold on to guilt.
Just how many people, not only women, but specifically how many women are affected by this type of violence. To talk about it in a way that also feels healing, because sometimes talking about it doesn't feel healing. And talking about it is necessary for healing, but to have an avenue towards talking about these subjects, sharing these subjects, inviting people, as when an audience comes, inviting people to come and participate, even by just bearing witness and hearing these stories, and acknowledging that this pain and these stories exist, I think is just so important.
So my first initial reaction was like, oh, that's going to be really fun to do. It's very like dramatic and colorful, and you get to explore so many different things. So I was really excited as an actor to really dive into it. There's like a central theme, and you watch different people react to sort of a similar circumstance. Because it just shows how much color and how much variety of experience different people have with a similar thing.
The first word that came to me when I was able to read this was healing. I think that, you know, we talk a lot about bringing theater back in new mediums and showcasing new writers and showcasing work that's more important and less commercial. And I think this is the pinnacle of that kind of work that helps and heals people. And that's the work I've always wanted to do. And I'm glad that we get to do that with this show. So.
I think the first time I read it, it was a lot to take in. As a sexual assault survivor myself, I was like, whoa, this is like hard to read and hard to digest. But my first reaction was like, wow, like I've never read something that depicts this in such an accurate way, you know, because I feel like I have these conversations with my friends, with my female identifying friends all the time, but like I've never seen it so accurately depicted in a play before. And I was gonna be like, I have had this conversation that the main character and her best friend have, you know? So I was like really surprised and like, wow, this is the kind of piece that we need right now. This is what we need to be sharing with audiences. It's a conversation, specifically the one that I'm talking about at the end of the play between the main character and her college best friend, where both of these women are sexual assault survivors, and they are like have had different but similar experiences, and the way that they're reacting to them are very different. And one of them is very protective, and the other one is like, no, I'm fine. Like, I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to go live my life, you know? And I just feel like I've literally had that conversation with a friend before. So I was like, wow, this is like great that these are like real conversations that women are actually having with each other.
I was just happy to be a part of something that was talking about, you know, things that are hard to talk about.
What would you say is your favorite moment in the play?
Act 5 at the end, it's like so vulnerable, and we finally connected when we like blocked that, and it's so beautiful, and I don't want to give too much away, but there's a very beautiful moment at the end of Act 5, and I think that's my favorite part.
Playing Mr. Bill because he's an older gentleman, he's fun. He's not one of the creeps. Well, I don't see the play as bashing men or anything like that. It's for anyone that has dealt with any kind of shame. Mm-hmm. This particular story is about sexual molestation, but I find it to be dealing with so many other things personally for me that makes you feel like, you know, you can share the story, you can share your story to help somebody else. You're never alone. You're not the only one going through it. And for me, Mr. Bill is fun because he is a man dealing with a little girl, and everything nowadays is so, be careful. You don't want her to think, you don't want to seem, you know, everything is, you got to tiptoe around everything. But this is just a man that is an older man looking for a friend and asking a young little girl, do you know this information? And as careful as we are, you can see the innocence. There is nothing behind it. And it's fun, you know, just her introducing herself with her name, and the way, you know, what do you do when someone tell you their name is Shaim? Exactly. You know, so it's fun. And
I mean, we'll see if this shifts once we, you know, go through the performance process, because as you know, like things, you know, your favorite moment can change throughout different parts of the process. But I guess the first thing that comes to my mind right now is I think it's Act Act 2, because I'm thinking of the prologue. Act 2, the collective scene where we're in Shay's office, and those moments of getting to say things like, oh, cat calls, oh girl, that's the worst. All of this, like, this sense of we're bonding as women, that relief and that joy that, you know I've experienced, and I'm sure many women have, of when you are with friends and you can just be like, oh, all these things, like, why does this happen? Like, there's a bit of a like joyousness in it, and this, like sisterhood energy of, and getting to be like, oh girl, like.
This is a little selfish. So I played the three mothers, as we said, and there's the way that we've blocked it and done it. I have like one scene as one mother, and then I like turn around and become the other mother. And I know that turn to me is so like, it fills my acting soul in a really beautiful way. And it's just like that turn and just becoming a whole new person in that moment, and how different those women are, is a really exciting thing for me to play.
My favorite moment, without a doubt, is I have so much fun before the church scene. Growing up in a church, it's very different than my church experience. So it's so fun to be able to play that with everybody and to be different. We get to, every couple minutes, we get to play someone different. I mean, that's such a rarity to be able to do. So.
Favorite moment. I think my favorite moment is the ending, because it's so powerful and uplifting, and like, I'm definitely gonna cry on stage.
Powerful and uplifting. Why would you cry?
There'll be happy tears. There'll be like empowering happy tears, but it's like so powerful to like actually like say those things on stage and like declare your victory and declare that you are free, and hopefully like help the audience feel that as well.
So
yeah, I think that's definitely my favorite moment.
There's a lot.
choose one.
Yeah, I think my favorite moment has to be, there's this really beautiful kind of like imagery at the very end of kind of like the hardest scene, where you really have this flashback of what inherently happened to the three main women, Danny, Shay, and Jan. And there's this like really beautiful moment at the end where the three women come together and are just kind of like, you know, holding each other and are there together. And yeah, I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah, fun.
What would you say it has been the wildest and craziest moment or experience you've had in the play?
I think it's just having Dr. Colombo and his responses to Shay, and just like the dismissing, you know, the not giving the attention that it deserves. And same with Leanne, just like the dismissive behavior that he holds.
Act 5, where we're dealing with our mothers. And it became very emotional for me.
Wow.
Extremely, where and not just me, Amanda and the and Ellie as well. And it just shows how powerful it really is in character, to the point where you have to pull back because everything is fast. Okay, we're going to the next thing, but it literally pulls you there, which is a credit to the story itself, a credit to the actresses, but it's very powerful.
I don't know. Come back to me on that one. I have to think on that a little more.
We're going to come back to that.
I think for me, it's definitely the kind of like the girl group, office group chit chatter. Something about that is so different every time. I could speak to one person one day, but then the next day we have a completely different interaction.
That's a hard one. I feel like I wouldn't say like wild or crazy, but it's been hard having like gaps in between rehearsals and keeping up like the character and the lines and everything. And so that's like been a journey of like, you know, okay, we got rehearsal, then we've got 2 weeks off, and I still need to like be in character and know my lines and all of that. But
Amanda Tolero who plays Shay. She has this moment where she kind of freaks out on the therapist, Dr. Colombo, and you just really see her explode and like storm out. And it's like kind of the only time she allows herself to like get really angry, and she just like does a really good job of just being like, you know, wild. And yeah.
What would you say is the villainous villain?
Wow. Well, there's a few, but I actually kind of think Shay's mother, but maybe it's just because I'm playing Shay, so I can, but yeah, Shay's mother, and that moment that we get to see, it feels so like it, I know from her perspective, she probably is doing her best, you know, but like for such a little girl, it's hard to not see it as villainous, you know?
To me, the closest person that you relate to is your mom. You know what I mean? And when, you know, Danny's mom is phenomenal. Jan's mom, but Shay's mom, oh my world, like, she scares me.
Like the system is also the villain. Like the system of, you know, and Jan gets to say this in the play, and a few of the other characters get to say it as well. Like, it's not just the person who abused them, but I didn't say anything because people didn't talk about this, so it wasn't going to matter. Or, you know, with Shay's character, like, you see these mothers who are saying, don't do that, like, don't you dare talk about these things. And I think on one hand, like, you could argue that those women are also villains, and I'm not going to say that they're not, but I think it's the system that creates this. I mean, ultimately the system that allows these types of villainous acts to take place and continue and be allowed to continue under the guise of propriety or whatever.
I think Uncle Tim is probably the worst. I just feel like Kate just does such a beautiful job playing him, and it's just like you would never expect it. And watching just like this sweet, beautiful girl play this like manipulative, like I think he wins the title of villainous villain.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Vinny, although I play Vinny. I'm not a fan of, Mother at all. I think Emily plays a very...
Mother, though. Which mother?
Shay's mother. I think Emily plays a very spooky mother after she plays a very nice mother, all in like a matter of a couple minutes. And you're like, wow, you are quite the dynamic actress. And so I would say, yeah, Shay's mother is a bit spooky and Vinny's a bit spooky.
What about Tim?
I definitely also don't like Uncle Tim. As you can tell, I go to rehearsal every night and I'm like, oh, let's leave those men there.
But they're not all bad. I mean,
They're not. I mean, Roy to me is like the peak of what a great man should be, and being there for someone and being there for his family. So there are kind men, and Reverend Gale does his best. God bless him.
He's a lovely man.
He just wants to, be a husband.
Yeah.
So there are good men in the show.
I think Uncle Tim, who I play, is the worst in that he appears like a nice guy and is very friendly and like outwardly kind to people. And that's not what's going on beneath the surface at all. He's a horrible person. I think that what he's doing is all premeditated.
I think that the most evil people are the ones who have the most wisdom and are still doing the abuse. So, I think that is Uncle Tim.
Most surprising aspect of the play?
It's like because you're so used to hearing like very tragic stories of like abuse and everything, and then that being it, and that is good and it's beautiful, and like I think those stories should be told, but this one is like uplifting, which I feel like you don't necessarily get all the time, because it's like, here, take all of this trauma and also like release it. Like, you have the power to do that. So just remember that. And I feel like it's hard to get that in a play, but this somehow does it. So you did an amazing job.
You know what was the most surprising is this woman that went through all of this, dealing with all of her vices, all of her issues. I think the fact that she owns her own organization and how powerful she is now, and she's a motivational speaker. Like, you can see people hit rock bottom and then blossom to something that is so phenomenal and use that for good. And I think a lot of times we deal with so much guilt, shame, embarrassment. We just want to throw it away. We don't want to deal with it anyway, but we have to, because it's going to manifest itself some way, somehow. Willing to share her story and empower others is phenomenal.
The collective scene early on with The Office, of just, on one hand, it's surprising, and of course not, but surprising that like there's so much humor in the play. Like, it's very heavy and the subject matter is very intense, but the play also has like wonderful moments of like humor and laughter and lightness. So that, and then I guess maybe not surprising, but an element that I think is handled really well is the flashback scenes when they are talking about their views, and the way in which we're able to see that without seeing it.
I don't know if this is surprising, but this is just a thing that comes to my head. So there's the scene where I'm Shay's mother and I'm like berating her. And then at the end, Jan and Danny get up and they like all embrace her. And it's not like surprising in like a shock value kind of way, but I think it's just such a beautiful image to see these women coming together. And I guess I didn't expect them to have a moment of togetherness, and the fact that they do really like makes it whole for me.
There can be, and there is a happy ending no matter what you're suffering and going through. I think we see so many of these women take, like I was saying, take these long journeys of hurt and healing and self-harm, and they come out as warriors. And I think women are not always depicted to come out as warriors, to come out on top, to come out as survivors, as triumphant survivors. And we get to do that in this piece, where everybody at the end is a collective, but also a collective of like hope. And I bring back the point of healing. And that's rare sometimes. Not all people write women characters like that. So it's awesome.
For me, was just the way that this play shows that abuse can take on so many forms. You know, like, it's not, well, it doesn't look like the way we always think it looks like.
What did you learn about yourself in playing your various roles?
Ooh, so I guess something ironic, speaking of uplifting and everything, is in Act 2, she is like supposed to own the space and be there completely and entirely. And I guess I didn't notice this about myself, but I am not that person. So then that's actually been my hardest part for me, is learning to own the space and like control a room in that way. And I've also learned to be way more vulnerable, I think, with others and just with myself, you know, to actually recognize things that I may or may not have repressed.
That I'm not as old as I feel every day. Because I'm 51. Wow. And so I feel like there's days my daughter can tell you, she's my only child, and I'm like, girl, come here. I can't remember her name. I don't remember where my keys are. But then to remember all the lines, you know, doing something that you really enjoy doing compared to doing something that you have to do is a big difference. It's a huge difference.
Well, a few things. I've learned that, boy, do I love more having a rehearsal process. Ability to share space, actually physically share space together and work is just so important. And then more like internally, the church scene has been very interesting, going through and sort of trying to discover for Jan what that relationship is and why in that scene I'm just on the edge of leaving at any moment.
If the character is good and if the play is good, and if you can read it and be like, oh, I understand what she's doing. And so I learned that like, just because I don't get cast as this doesn't mean I can't do it. And as long as I like apply myself and do the work I'm supposed to do, the dramatic things is not this like hard, elusive thing that I can't reach anymore. It's something that is accessible to me.
I can play a man. I can play a man. I think, I like rings. I like my makeup, my hair done, and I'm from Jersey. So, I love a dress and a good heel. And so for me to turn around and to play a middle-aged man, a teenager, and an old reverend is not something I would have ever expected, nor do I think I ever even trained for. So to me, to be able to do this is a welcome challenge, and I got to prove to myself I could do it. So that's really
And you do it fabulously.
I think I learned a lot about like what I can do, like what kind of roles I can play and still feel safe, like that role with Uncle Tim, and also just like I don't think I've ever played a male character before, so that's been interesting and like exciting to like step into that role and figure out like how to be masculine and how to like, how can I portray with my body that I am a man, even though, outwardly I present very feminine,
Well, I'm, through playing two young men, which is actually, something I haven't really done before. Getting into the mindset of being an abuser was something that I had never done before, and, kind of forced me to try to understand him and why he is doing what he's doing in those moments where he has the option to be a good older brother and he doesn't take it.
Okay. And this is the last one. Can you believe it went so quickly? It just went by way too quickly.
I know it does.
Why should people see Renaming Shaim?
Oh, why shouldn't they?
That's what I'll say, but why should they?
I just think it's such a beautiful story, and it lets both the actors and the audience just really be vulnerable and go through steps that they might not otherwise, yeah, so I just go see Renaming Shaim,
because it's so powerful. It is it's like I said, the story is about sexual molestation, but it's so much more. It's empowering, it's encouraging, it's ministering, it's fun, it has its quirky moments, but it's a very, very, there is not, with all the characters in there is not one that somebody can't relate to. It's beyond entertaining, it's educating, and it's needed.
It's so important for like a larger conversation to exist and around this subject, because analogy of when you lift up a big rock and like all of the worms, and no offense to worms, but let's just say gross stuff under there, it needs like the air and the light, and we need to look at it to take that power away and to have any change.
I think it's addressed in the play. There is a very like silent stigma and shame around sexual abuse, and people are like, oh, that's not something we talk about, it's not something, but I'm like, we need to. It's like the play says exactly this, like if you don't talk about something, it gives it all of this power, whereas if you talk about it and you're like, this is what's happening, this is why it's bad, this is why we need to talk about it, like you are not bad if this happened to you, like there's this one line that Shay has, it's like, speak to the truth of who they are. And I think that that's really powerful and true, because it's like, just because this happened to you, you say something, now people know who that abuser is. It's like you're kind of in a way like being like, listen, this happened to me, but this is not me, but this they did, this is them. So it's like, it's a way to like flip the thinking. And I think that a lot of people have probably never heard anything like that before. And so hearing it and seeing it played out in like a safe, like I do feel like the play for the audience is very safe. Like even if you are a victim or a survivor, if you watch this play, I think it will of course bring up a lot in you, but in a very safe way.
So many reasons. First, it's an all-female cast. It's an all-female cast. Come and support women, always come and support women in the arts, first and foremost. Second, it's new work. You know, we're bringing theater back. The best thing you can do is to support new work, to support new artists. Come down and see it. And three, come support an important show that helps heal people. You could watch something in the show and take it away and go and help somebody else who might be going through the same thing. Be a hero to someone else. Be a hero to us. Come see the show.
So people need to come see Renaming Shame, because I think it's just such a powerful story about young women surviving and thriving after being abused.
This play especially is just going to make men and women just so much more empathetic to the abuse that you don't even know could be happening around you, you know?